Hey guys, you're OS and VTXReviews.com. You're watching our video review of the Toshiba Satellite L875-S7110. This is a 17-inch laptop with a LED display and also has an Intel Core i3 chipset with a 4GB of DDR3 RAM, a 640GB hard drive. It has a DVD writable disk and also has a built-in HD webcam, and also has Windows 8 installed, which has now been upgraded to Windows 8.1. The product itself, again, the main selling point here is going to be that extended 17.3-inch screen. Otherwise, the device itself is not that high-powered in terms of specs or anything like that, but again, it is pretty cost-friendly at only about $560 or so as a street price, so it can be purchased for relatively cheap, considering that you do have pretty solid internals as a mid-end laptop in addition to a large display. So again, if you are looking for something that's pretty easy to see, if you want a larger screen for viewing videos, watching content, browsing the web, this is definitely a good direction to go with a modern laptop by a pretty quality manufacturer. Taking a closer look at the design itself, it's made entirely out of plastic, which in this case is actually a good thing because if it was made out of metal, a 17-inch laptop would be extremely heavy. This product is still pretty hefty to carry around with you if you plan on, lugging around on trips, but it definitely makes it more manageable due to the fact that it has lightweight plastics employed, and it has a pretty interesting finish on the front of the product as well, which makes it a little bit more aesthetically interesting rather than just plain plastic, which is nice. The front of the device doesn't have anything, whereas the left-hand edge has access to the proprietary charging port, a USB 2.0 port, and the aforementioned DVD slot. The right-hand side of the unit has access to the two USB 3.0 ports for high-speed data transfers. You also have access to a 3.5mm headphone jack, a microphone port, and also an Ethernet port. You also have an HDMI port and a VGA port. And essentially that is it. There's nothing more on this device in terms of design. Now, one aspect where the plastic kind of is a downfall or a pitfall is the fact that it makes the hinge a little bit weak, at least in my opinion. Because if you constantly open the lid up and down, it wobbles, as you can see here, a little bit more than your traditional laptop will, just because the hinge is kind of having to support such a large display that it gets a little bit weak over time. So my recommendation would be just kind of, if you are using it at home, kind of keeping the laptop open without closing it every single time, which might reduce the amount of wear and tear that it's going to accumulate over time. Otherwise, performance again is pretty good with an Intel Core i3 chipset, and it maintains a pretty good speed as far as the performance is considered. If you're browsing the web, watching YouTube videos, perhaps doing some word processing, some light game playing, it's not going to be anything too bad. If you do play a lot of graphic-intensive games, it might get a little bit slower than general, but it still is pretty manageable, especially when plugged into AC power. Speaking of the battery life, it's actually pretty good for this laptop. It lasted me about 3 to 4 hours before I had to recharge it, which is fairly impressive considering the large screen size of this unit in general. As far as the screen is considered, the viewing angles are very, very good, but it is not as bright as I would like it to be, so seeing under direct sunlight is still going to be an issue. It's going to glare quite a lot as well. Still, on top of the device, you have access to a front-facing HD camera for video chatting and also a microphone for noise cancellation, so you can use this with Skype and other programs as you might want. Again, the large screen here really comes into play, so if you are doing a lot of graphic-intensive work, anything from the start menu here, you can take advantage of the larger display. You can see a lot more tiles, you can see a lot more images and graphics and screen real estate. Whereas the difference between a 15-inch screen and a 17-inch screen might seem minor on paper, that 2 inches on the diagonal side really adds a lot of screen real estate. So it's difficult to see on camera, but this thing is a lot larger than your traditional laptop will be, which is something that I definitely appreciate. So taking a look at the keyboard here, it uses a pretty nice island-style chiclet keyboard, which I think that's pretty comfortable to type on in general, and we definitely appreciate in terms of Toshiba putting in here and implementing. Keys are a nice size, they're easy to press. Also the cap keys and also the number lock keys are illuminated as well, so whenever you press on them, you will be able to see them even in darker environments. Now the keyboard itself isn't backlit, but it still is pretty responsive, easy to press on. It doesn't really flex that much either for a plastic keyboard, which is nice, so you can get a pretty fair speed on here, especially if you're typing on it a lot. It's a very, very good keyboard in terms of design. The top device features access to the stereo speaker, which is pretty loud and offers surprisingly decent sound quality. So if you want to use this for watching YouTube videos, it more than does the trick for that. You also have access to a power on and off switch. Again, the side of the product has an interesting numeric D-pad because the device is so large. It doesn't just have the QWERTY keyboard, you have another dedicated row here. So if you want to use this for Excel processing, for word processing, it's going to work very, very well because it has a dedicated, again, number pad for that. The bottom here features the trackpad, which is a very large one as well. It measures about 4.3 inches diagonally, so it's very easy to use. It supports multi-touch gestures to zoom in and out. Very, very comfortable. I like how the texture is slightly rough and coarse, but also fairly smooth. So it seems like something that's not going to wear down over time. And also compared to trackpads by Gateway or HP, it's something that's pretty easy to use and doesn't accumulate a lot of grit and dust. As Gateway's trackpads tend to have a lot of grease, so whenever you start using it for longer times, it gets a lot of dirt and grease on it, which makes it kind of disgusting. But this touchpad seems to be pretty responsive and also pretty clean, which I do like. The click keys are pretty sensitive and pretty large. Something I don't really like is how the click pads are only sensitive, the most sensitive at the center here. And since this trackpad is so large, if you press on the side here, it's not going to be as responsive and easy to use. But still is pretty good overall. As kind of in general usage, I would say that the design is pretty well thought out, and the laptop in general looks pretty well made. So it's something that I do like. As far as processing speed, again, it's pretty fast for day-to-day usage. If you want to take a look at YouTube, for instance, it loads up YouTube pretty well. I can load that up. You can see how the pages will look on the larger display here. It's pretty impressive. And perhaps want to go to our own website here, go to OS Reviews, and when I click on that, you can see how fast it loads. The Wi-Fi here is pretty good, the Wi-Fi chipset. It offers a pretty good reception rate, so even if you're kind of a few meters away from the router itself, it still should get a pretty decent reception, which we are excited about. Again, you can see a lot more than your traditional laptop. A lot more grids, a lot more icons. Again, very difficult to see on camera, but really in real life it's huge. If you want to compare with a traditional cell phone here, you can kind of get a glimpse of how large this thing is. It's like a mini television screen because it's so large. And again, it's great for enhanced productivity. If you want to do a lot of web browsing with it, it's going to be a lot more comfortable and a lot less straining on your eyes. As far as the LED technology used on this product, I would say that it improves the product in terms of reducing the amount of eye strain kind of compared to traditional LCDs, but it works still pretty well. Otherwise, it's a pretty clean install of Windows 8 on the product itself. It doesn't have too much going on. You do have Norton Security installed, which only lasts you about a year before you have to reinstall it, which can get a little bit tedious, but you can uninstall it if you want. Complex pages like with a lot of Flash content like New York Times still loads very fast and very well, so you can still view all the content as you want. And overall web browsing experience is again pretty impressive. You don't have any other extras pre-loaded, like Word, like Microsoft Word Starter is not even loaded on here. So if you do want Microsoft Word, you have to install it by yourself or purchase it by yourself, which is a little bit tedious and annoying, but overall works pretty well. The Metro UI applications from the maps, the calendars, and the photos and the images, the sound recorders, all works pretty well as far as productivity is concerned. And Toshiba has included their own applications here as well, including Skype, Vimeo, Amazon, eBay. They have access to Netflix, Norton Security, and Kira. All are built into the product when you get it. But you can uninstall these if you want to. Again, this Microsoft Word Office here is actually not a full version. You have to actually purchase it or get your own version, which is a little bit annoying. But still, it's something that's here. But again, you can have to activate it or try it. But it is included right there, so you can, it's a little bit easier than having to install it by yourself. Another feature here is actually you can mirror your content on this device, so you can actually mirror what's being shown on your laptop onto a larger display, like on an HD display or an HD television, which is a wireless opportunity that you can use over Wi-Fi. That's kind of nice. It's built in by Toshiba, which is kind of interesting. As far as the camera is considered, I would say that's a pretty good camera. I'm just going to show the laptop here, and I would say that it does a pretty nice job of capturing images, and overall it's a good one for video capturing, video chatting applications and such, and it works pretty well for that. But it's not the most I would say, the most intuitive in terms of the best camera in terms of low light performance. So if you are under darker environments, it doesn't have a backlight or an LED light, so it's not going to be as great for illuminating subjects in a pitch black situation. But overall, it works basically as advertised. So this is, again, a pretty impressive laptop, again, if you want to watch movies for doing productivity, browsing the web, because the 17-inch screen is going to be huge and really comfortable for using, again, at home, perhaps at an office or the such. Downsides to this laptop is that it's going to be a lot larger to lug around with you, and also the fact that it's not as, again, plastically built, and also the processor of an Intel Core i3 chipset is only mid-end instead of something like Intel Core i7, which would have been better, I think, for a larger size screen like this. But still, if you want a budget-oriented laptop with very solid performance, running on Windows 8, and perhaps just to use at home, at school, at work, it's a great one to have because it's cost-friendly, it has a large screen, but offers all the benefits of a smaller and similarly powerful and similarly priced Windows 8 machine. So it's a pretty cool device to get, I think, especially if you're looking for that 17.3-inch LCD display. So LED display. So thanks for watching here at osvtxreviews.com. That's been our full video review of this Toshiba Satellite 17.3-inch laptop, with the specific model number being the L875-S7110, which is kind of long, but there you go. Thanks for watching here at osvtxreviews.com.